All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jamie Escobar Dyer. I'm the FFCC Education Director, and I am very excited for our FFCC Independent Connection, where we're really trying to connect our high school students with our independent teams and really kind of understand what that connection is as leaving high school and moving into that more independent area of marching. So today we do have the Epic Winter Guard, yay! And they are going to be here kind of sharing some insight into their program. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to them really quick just to introduce themselves. So, Chloe, if you want to start.
Sure. Hi everyone, I'm Chloe O'Brien. I'm a first year performer with Epic. Um, I, I should have thought about what I was going to say before I started talking. I marched with Yulee High School for 4 years. I just graduated last year. And for outdoor, I'm in the Florida Visual Ensemble for the Gator Marching Band. Um, yeah. Alexis or Jade, I know you guys are in here if you want to go next. Whoever's ready. Or Audrey.
I'll go next. My name is Jade Carter. I have been doing guard for 5 years. I did 3 years with Sandalwood High School, and this will be my second year with Epic. Um, I'm really excited to share everything with y'all. I also coach at Atlantic Coast High School, so I'm really excited for this experience. Alexis or Audrey, y'all want to go?
Yeah, I'll go. Hi, my name is Audrey. I have been doing guard for about 7 years now. I started spinning in high school in Texas, and when I moved here to Florida, I spun the last 3 years of high school with Fletcher High School, and I've spent the past 3 years with Epic. I also teach at Fletcher Middle School. This is our first year doing it, and I'm super, super excited. And I'm just excited to share and talk about my passion of color guard with all of you guys.
Hi, my name's Alexis Lawson. This is my first year performing with Epic. I performed with Orange Park High School for 4 years. I do outdoor season with Troopers Lager, this year Heat Wave, and I also teach at Lakeside Junior High as the director. Such a blast.
Awesome. All right, so we are going to go right into some of the questions that our participants had sent in. So without further ado, our first question for you guys is, what is the cost associated with joining an independent team and specifically Epic?
I think I can go ahead and answer this one. Um, so typically, what I've seen and heard from like most programs, it's generally gonna be in the ballpark between like 1,500 to like $2,500 for a full season, which can seem like a very daunting amount at first. But a lot of teams do payment plans, so you don't have to like pay the huge lump sum at once. And for Epic specifically, um, our dues this year were 1,200, but our director really like prides the program on trying to keep color guard affordable. So if you pay like I don't remember what the exact date was, but if you paid before a certain date in January, $200 were taken off your dues. So like I was fortunate enough that I could pay in full, and I only paid 1,000 for my dues this year. Um, yeah, our dues will probably be going up a little bit next year. Because as it stands right now, we're hoping to go to WGI championships in Dayton, which is very expensive. So they will go up a little bit, but hopefully not by very much.
And to
Awesome.
add on to that, really quick, sorry. That also covers pretty much everything. Like it covers our shirts, our backpacks, our jackets, and they will also work with you if that price is too high for you, Samson and all of our other directors will really work with you to make sure that you can still be on the team even if the price is a little too high.
Awesome. All right. Can dues be worked off, or are there alternative payment options available? So you kind of talked about the payment options. Are there any maybe fundraising things or anything?
So there's
There-
plenty of fundraising that we do. Sorry, Audrey.
No.
We do the calendar fundraiser, where someone can donate towards your dues. And it's based on the day of the month, and you can have people pay for your dues towards that. And then Audrey, you can answer the rest.
Along with that, there are also t-shirt fundraisers. So if anybody would like to buy t-shirts with any of our if with like Epic on there or anything, we can sell those t-shirts, and all of those proceeds can go to the performer and their dues.
Nice. All right. How do competitions for independent guards differ from those in high school? So making that big jump from high school winter guard to independent, how is it different?
So for most of the regular season competitions, they're not super duper different. Especially for Epic, because we are usually there just about the whole time because we pull a lot of our sponsor teams floors, to kind of foster that sense of community. But the whole process of you get there, you do a little powwow, you watch a couple shows, and you start going through rotation. That's generally all the same. The only difference is that are looked at as sort of what's the word? They tell us that we're like the example a lot, like our directors. And so you kind of have to think a little bit more about how you're acting when you're going through the hallways and when you're in all the words are leaving me right now, but like where you put your backpacks down and all of your stuff. And you have to think a little bit more about your appearance outside of your performance. Because you're representing like an organization rather than just like your high school team.
Is the day any different than how maybe you would have done in high school?
I think it is slightly different. For me, for Epic, we are there for majority of the day, like Chloe said. But that also means that we have more time throughout the day to practice. It could be unofficial practices when we aren't in rotation, and then our actual rotation practice. So we have that little bit of extra time to continue to practice, to continue to improve. And then kind of backpacking off of what Chloe said, we tend to want to hold ourselves to a higher standard because we are representing something that we love. And we want to make sure that we are putting it out there as something that.
Awesome. All right. What specific skills and training methods are emphasized within the program at Epic? So thinking about basic blocks or even going into auditions, what should they be kind of prepared for?
Obviously, we go over the basics just like everybody else. We do drop spins, we do pop tosses, everything. So it's not much different in high school in that manner. Regarding like specific skills, there's nothing necessarily specific that you need going into it. Our staff tells us all the time that they're not going to give us something that we can't do. They like to emphasize that if it's too difficult or it's something that we're trying over and over and we just can't get it, they're not going to force us to do it. And they're really going to help you grow throughout the season. They do a lot of one-on-one during practices and helping improve your individual skills and also the team skills. So definitely expect to have to know your basics, and obviously everyone learns their basics differently depending on where you go to school. So you do have to relearn things in a different way sometimes, just based on how our directors teach us the basics. But don't go into it scared because you don't know a specific toss. If you don't know it, our coaches and our staff and our directors will really work to get you to where you need to be.
Just to kind of piggyback off what Jade said, the only skill that you really need is a positive mindset. And I call that a skill because it is something that not everybody has. And like Jade said, there's nothing really there's not like this one toss that you have to know to be on the team. Because they will teach you like whatever you need to know for the show. But you have to come in to any independent program with a willingness to have to relearn what you learned in high school. Like for me especially, I went through a couple directors in high school, so a lot of my technique is really shady. And so going through like weapons technique block is like learning a third language. I have no idea what they're saying. I have no idea what's going on. And so it was really stressful at first, but as long as you keep that positive growth mindset and you realize that it's going to be a little challenging, then you'll do just fine.
Awesome. I love that. And I agree. Mindset is a skill. 100. All right. This question is, what is the audition process like for prospective members? So what would they expect to come to an Epic audition?
In the past years for Epic auditions, it's just been very upbeat. We tend to try to get to know everybody who tends to come and audition so that they're not just like, oh, a number that's going to audition. No, we know their name, maybe their favorite color, like where they spun at, who they spun with, all this, a bunch of different kinds of things, because we want to know them as a person, especially if they're going to be on the team with us, then they're going to grow with us and we're going to learn more and more about them as the time goes on.
Do you guys normally have, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Also, we kind of, it's more of like staff is kind of like observing auditions. They kind of, like one staff member will teach us like a dance sequence or like a flag sequence or a weapon sequence, and the rest of the staff is kind of watching out for anybody that stands out to them or anybody that seems to be falling behind a little bit, but they're still helping out. They don't just like sit there and stare at you. They still help out and coach you through everything. It's not just throwing a sequence of work at you, and then if you get it, you get it, and if you don't, you don't. It's still very much like similar to what a practice would be. It's just you have a number on and they're observing like how well you fit on the team, like technique wise and skill wise, but also how well you fit with the other team members.
Is it just one weekend, or is there like a audition and a callback, or how does that work?
This past year we only had 1-day auditions, but I think going forward it probably will morph into more of a audition callback situation, just because we're anticipating a lot more people auditioning next year. So far from what I've heard from like vets and staff, we've doubled in auditions every year. Audrey could probably say more about that because she's been here for all of them, but I think they said they're aiming at like 50 people auditioning next year, which is crazy. So probably have to have another day to accommodate all of that.
No, that's fantastic. So if I was a high school member, should I be versed in dance, flag, and weapon? Am I going to be introduced to all those things at an audition, or is it more geared off of just one or the other?
This year we had dance class in the morning, and then we had a lunch break, and then we learned flag. And then the weapons audition process comes more after you're casted. which again, we're still such a new program that could change next year. But as long as you come with like a good knowledge in like flag and dance, I'd say you're pretty okay. Um, and you'll make it through. You'll make it through.
Awesome.
And also, you can kind of like not pick and choose, but like if you don't want to do weapon, it's not required for you to do weapon. Not everyone is super well versed in dance, but it's still, as long as you know like your basics, like your feet positions, everything like that, it will come pretty easy. Me personally, I don't do weapon, and so I'm mostly like on the dance line and the flag line, and they kind of figure that out during auditions, and they figure out who wants to be on weapon, who does more dance, who does more flag. So you can kind of show your strengths, and you don't have to audition for weapon if you feel uncomfortable with doing weapon.
Awesome. All right. How do members balance their academic responsibilities with their commitment to color guard? So whether you're in school or even throwing out if you're working, how are you balancing basically life?
It's finding that balance between life and guard. Our practices are on the weekends, on Saturday and Sunday, and they are full day rehearsals. I mean, they are long sometimes. They normally range from like 9 to 5 or 3 to 10. And I know that can be really, really stressful with school, especially when you have deadlines and projects. Me personally, I'm not currently in school, but I do work a full-time job alongside teaching. And I know that can be really stressful for me sometimes, especially when it comes to video assignments. For me, I try to focus all of my work time at work. I try not to bring any of that home. And that way, when I get home and I have stuff to do for guard, whether it's video assignments or I'm going to teach, I put my all in all into that. I try not to let my outside work life affect whatever is going into guard, because to piggyback way, way off of what Chloe said, a positive mindset is key to just pushing through everything. I know it can be stressful, and if it gets to a point to where it becomes too stressful, our staff is always there to talk to. They are some, if not the most supportive staff that I have ever had, and they understand that people have lives, and it gets stressful sometimes because they have lives too. So if anything gets too stressful, you can always go and talk to them.
To kind of continue off of what Audrey said, I'm a bio pre-med student here, so I like to joke to myself that I'm the busiest person on Epic. That's not true, but I like to pretend that it is. And so like trying to balance school and guard while we have video assignments during the week and then we have the super long practices. It can seem super daunting, but everyone on the team is so supportive and most of us are in school. So a lot of the times like I can just message somebody who is going to UNF who's taking a similar class to me and be like, hey, do you want to study together? Or like, hey, do you want to do our video assignments together so we can both knock it out so we can get, more time in for school? I also am a big fan of planning in advance. For me, I will generally drive back to Gainesville Monday morning before I go to class. And then I'll go to my first class and then I have a little break. And during that break, I'll sit and I will like plan out my week and what like assignments I have to do and what video assignments I have to do if they're posted already. And if they're not, I'll just like block out a little section to do them. So that way I don't have to like wonder when things are going to get done because I already know. I already figured it out. I'm a mastermind. And our staff has been pretty good this season about getting out like schedules and when and where our rehearsals are going to be, what competition weekends are going to be like pretty far out in advance. So that's never been something I've had to like worry about too much.
And where are you guys located in general as far as like where you practice?
We've been practicing.
Primarily,
Sorry,
yeah,
Jade, you
we've
can
been
go.
practicing primarily at either like Orange Park, which is like Oakleaf, Bartram. Sometimes we'll be at Fletcher. We kind of go all around. It's primarily in Jacksonville, but we have people that come from Georgia. Like Chloe comes all the way from Gainesville. We have another person that comes from Gainesville. But we primarily practice in between like Oakleaf, Bartram, and Fletcher, and then JU.
Awesome. Do you guys, I know, in a previous Zoom, the question was, could you be on the guard if you don't have a car? Do you have any like situations like that in your group?
100%. Me personally, I give multiple people rides. We pretty much carpool like the whole team. I think all 26 of us usually end up combining into like 6 or 7 cars for most times for practices and competitions. Some people just don't want to drive, and some people don't have cars. And me personally, I know that I don't ever ask for gas money. I'm fine taking someone to practice. We're all going to the same place. And as long as you're not hesitant about asking, I know even some of our coaches and our staff will even give someone a ride if they need it. So like anyone is willing to give you a ride. You don't have to worry about taking the bus or missing practice because you don't have a ride. All you really have to do is ask, and there will be multiple people that will be responding and saying, I can pick you up, I can pick you up, I can pick you up.
I know me personally, I don't have a car. So I am the one person that's always asking for rides from staff members or from members on the team. It took me a minute to warm up to like actually be able to ask for help, but now it's just like secondhand nature. Can I please get a ride? Please.
That's awesome that you guys have that camaraderie within each other to help support that. All right. Could you elaborate on the typical practice schedule and frequency of video assignments?
So
Okay.
we generally,
Oh, Chloe, you got it.
thank you. So we generally, we'll start like a typical rehearsal. We'll do the usual like dance class. If it's like March Madness time and we just have too much choreo to get through, sometimes we'll skip some of the across the floors. And our director will just like turn on 2 songs and be like, okay, once to stretch, once to warm up your hands, go. But on an ideal day, which is most of the season, because the crazy time is just like 3 rehearsal weekends, you know. We will go through the across the floors, we'll do our stretches. Sometimes we'll do team stretches, sometimes we'll do individual, and then after we finish all of that, we'll usually just transfer straight into the show. We don't do a ton of like flag and weapon technique blocks anymore, because we get a lot of those in our video assignments. And so we'll just go straight into the show. They'll start out with one chunk that they want us to do. We'll work on that for like 2 hours. When they finish with that, we'll move on to the second chunk. And then when we finish with that, we'll start chunking through the show. And then that's usually like the last 3 hours of rehearsal. There will be a dinner or lunch break somewhere in there. They'll usually tell us beforehand like when it's gonna be, but sometimes it's a gamble. Sometimes it's a gamble. You'll always get one. You just don't know when it's gonna be. Then we'll set up for a full run. We'll get a break. If we're doing 2 full runs, then we'll go for the second one, and then we'll pack up and we'll get out of there. And honestly, packing up and getting out of there is what takes up the most of rehearsal. Because time flies when you're having fun, you know. Yeah. And then for the frequency of video assignments, we get them every week. They're generally posted at the latest by Wednesday morning. And they're due Friday night. There have been a couple of times where they were due Saturday night because we either didn't have rehearsal on Saturday or they got posted later. And they're run through our captains this year. So our captains are the ones who like decide what's going to be on them, and then they get approved by staff, and then they go out to us. Most of the time it will be at least one dropless run. They've been putting something that I think is really funny. They put Personal Demon on there, and it's just something that you as an individual are struggling with in the show. You do it 3 times, and then it'll be drop spins or spin medleys, a couple tosses that are in the show, and then some random chunks that the individual sections are working on. So yeah, it's not like anything super crazy. Like most of the time I get them done in about an hour and a half.
You just send them to the captain like through an email, or
They'll make a post on the Facebook with all of the things, and then You'll take all your videos and compile them into like one video, and then you'll post it underneath that. There's a couple different ways people do them, but I'm personally downloaded CapCut, and I will just like shove them all in there and mute them because I make weird noises when I'm rehearsing. And then I'll post that to YouTube, and then I'll take that link and I'll post that in the Facebook.
Cool. All right. What fees are involved aside from your membership dues? Like, are there any additional costs for like clinics or workshops or things that you weren't expecting to have to pay for outside of just that, $1,000 or whatever?
There were absolutely no hidden fees involved whatsoever. They break it down for us. I believe at one point I had seen it in a spreadsheet. They had broken it down for me. But they tell you what everything is going for. Like this much will be designated to backpacks. This much will be designated to wear the t-shirts and like costumes, flags, floors. If we decide to get new ones that year, that would be like, oh, like around like, hey, this is what your money is going towards. It's not just that your money's going in like a secret pile and you have no idea what it's used for. We know exactly what it is used for. We did have a clinic this past summer, I believe, but that was completely separate from it. It was completely separate price from the actual team membership payment, and that was posted so far in advance, so people were very well aware of it.
Cool. It's good to have the transparency too, so you know. So this one was kind of already answered. It was how do members manage their time between color guard and other aspects such as school and work. So it was kind of nice to know that you all have all of that going on, full-time jobs and school and teaching and making it happen. So, is there a strong sense of camaraderie among team members during performances? So I guess when you're thinking about show days on the floor, and I would even venture to say how it goes in rehearsals.
We all boost each other so much. We're constantly told not only by our staff but by each other, you got this, you're gonna have the best rehearsal, you're gonna have the best day. Honestly, Chloe is one of the best people to go to when you talk of something about that. If she sees you're feeling down or that run maybe wasn't your best, she'll come up to you and be like, hey, you got this, you're gonna do great, you're gonna have the best run ever. She's like just like a poster girl for positive, for just being positive. And honestly, that's how pretty much everybody is on the team, especially if we notice one of us is down. We're constantly asking, like, do you need anything or anything like that? Or just in general, if we know it's just like a bad practice day, we try to hype them up and boost them as much as we can. Because, we've all been there and we all want someone to help pick us back up after we've struggled. And that is just like a team bonding thing. I love it personally. I know I've had some really rough days, and there's always been a couple people like, do you need anything? How can I help? And then some people just to hype me up, and it always makes it so much better. It reminds me like, hey, this might be a rough run for me, but I'm doing something I love, and it's just a nice reminder.
I think Audrey kind of summed it up, but I love to talk, so I am gonna piggyback off of what she said. Um, there's definitely such a sense of community in Epic. Like I mentioned it earlier, but that's like our big mission statement is we want to be the guard that is like a guard for the community and for like not just Northeast Florida, but like for all of our members and for all of Florida. We want to be like kind of a beacon that people can come to. And so like I know for me personally and for most of the Saber line, because we be struggling sometimes. Anytime anything goes up in the air, I'm like muttering under my breath. I'm like catch, 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 because it's just like so fun to get to watch your teammates succeed and to get to see them, especially when it's like harder trick tosses. It's so great to watch them just like nail it. And I think that all of us are just hyping each other up all the time. And there's not like a ton of catty drama. And like any drama we have had, it like the team has been really good about keeping it off the floor. Um, like there's just like a new vibe that comes on when the show music comes on, and it's like it's go time. Like it's great.
Just pulls you all together. Yeah, I don't know that there's any guard, no matter what they say, that doesn't have something going on. But it is nice to know that you put that music on and it all goes away. Uh, how would you describe the overall time commitment required for participation? So I know you kind of already had talked a little bit about that. So outside of I know you said you rehearse Saturday and Sundays. Is there any other besides video assignments, any other time commitments that you would say that you have to commit to or just thrown in there?
There's nothing specific throughout the week that we have to commit to. Like we don't have like random pop-up practices throughout the week. But definitely you have to have some sort of like self commitment to wanting to practice on your own, even if we don't have video assignments. You do have to like hold yourself accountable and think, okay, even if we don't have video assignments, I need to be practicing every day. I need to touch my equipment for at least 30 minutes to an hour every day. Um, but outside of practices and anything else that's on the schedule, they're never gonna throw anything at us like the week before and say, hey, we need everyone to be here on this day, because they know that most of us have school and jobs and everything. Every once in a while there'll be like a Friday night practice that we have right before a competition, but most of everything is on the schedule, and they're never gonna really throw anything at you that wasn't originally planned. Um, and sometimes we have things where we need to help with uniforms and things like that, but there's nothing like where they'll just spring like a group practice on everyone like in the middle of like a Wednesday.
Cool.
Off of Jade, if we do have a Friday night practice for some reason, they'll normally put out a poll because, like she said, they're aware that we have jobs. They'll put on a poll like, hey, if you have work and you can't make it, just let us know. Just we're not like holding it against you. That's your job. They just want to make sure that they know where you're at. They want to make sure that you're safe, and they want to know if you'll be able to make it to that practice or not.
Awesome. Um, can you provide insights into what practices are like in terms of structure and intensity? And I think you kind of already walked through a practice day or like a rehearsal day. But as far as like the intensity of it, like do you guys is it like no breaks? You guys are in and out? Is it mostly full groups, small groups? How would it like kind of maybe look throughout weekends?
So for intensity, I wouldn't say it's like the most intense thing ever. Our staff is really good about like, because they will forget sometimes that we haven't had water in a couple hours, but if you like raise your hand, you're like, hey, can we please get a water break? They'll be like, oh, absolutely. Like after this rep, like you guys are good. Um, we don't get like a ton of super long water breaks. We get a lot of little gush and goes. Um, but usually towards the end, they'll give us like one like good long water break before we come back out into the floor to do like a full run.
And practices can get pretty intense depending on how intense your shows were before. I know me personally, I didn't do a lot of like intense shows in themselves. So I know a lot of us this year have been struggling just a little bit, just because anytime we do a full run through, like it takes a lot out of you. And so our coaches do encourage us to start running, start exercising. They say if you can run a mile in under 10 minutes, then you're like prepared to do your show twice, because our show is basically like running a mile. Um, and so like at the beginning of practice, it's pretty chill. We're just like stretching, going over dance stuff, and then doing warm ups and everything. But then by the end of practice, you've already practiced, and then we have to do a full run. So it can get pretty intense in that sense. And you will definitely go home and probably eat dinner and immediately go to sleep. There's not much room for having a bunch of energy after practice. but to me, that's a good thing. That means that we did what we were supposed to do. We went full out and like we did the best that we could during practice to like be productive. And it really depends on like what the week ahead looks like on how our practice is. If we have a competition the next weekend, like we're obviously gonna have a lot more of an intense practice. But if it's the beginning of the season, we're kind of just like filling in the show, chunking in pieces. It's gonna be a little more boring of just like going through drill, going through the same pieces of drill over and over and over, or going over the same pieces of work over and over. But as the season goes on, it does get a little more intense, but your stamina is also built up as the season goes on. So it's not as bad towards the end of the season to do a full run like it would have been at the beginning of the season.
Awesome. All right, so that wraps up all of the questions that were submitted. Before we open it up to anybody that's here right now, is there anything that you feel like we missed as far as any type of questions that maybe you'd like to just bring up about Epic? And then we'll go into some of the questions and answers for some people that are in here.
I was kind of talking about it throughout the things, but I love Epic's messaging with like being a community-based guard. Because when I was in high school this past year, my guard director decided to get a floor that was massive. I couldn't tell you what the size was, because I was not like that involved in like the logistics of it, but I only had 9 people, so it was really big. Epic, like I was talking about earlier, we pull a lot of floors, and they pulled my floor when I was in high school. And to just know that was one like burden that was taken off of my shoulders was so helpful. And so like now being in the program and doing that for other kids, it's really cool to be able to do that and to be able to, you know, take that off of their shoulders so they can have a good run and they don't have to like worry about it. And then you get to watch all kinds of cool shows and it's so fun. And like I don't know if there's anyone here from Oakleaf, but we pulled their floor at Flagler Palm Coast High School. We went to go sit in the back and do our little claps. And I started playing rock, paper, scissors with one of the girls who's in like the boxes at the very beginning of their show. And it was just so fun and such like a core memory for me this season. Because it's just like you feel so connected to everyone in guard when like you get to do that for another program. I don't know. It means a lot to me. And I just wanted to share that because I feel like it's such a rewarding feeling to get to do that. And I think it's something that's so unique to Epic. Not that other teams don't pull floors too. I just feel like it's something that's so core to who we are in our messaging.
Love that. How would you describe Epic from like historical like shows in the past? Like is every year a different year? Is it kind of a similar like this is what you're probably gonna get from Epic? Is it like a specific vibe or like what is your identity, I guess? Or do you not have one? That's okay too. I know that's a
So,
little
so Epic originally started out as Endeavor. Um, my final year of high school was also the year that Epic came out as Endeavor. And we started with our 5 members. And it was wonderful. We didn't go out there ready to like beat some teams. We went out there for fun and to just explore and to be like, hey, we enjoy doing this even out of high school. And it was just a brand new thing for a lot of us. I know a lot of us hadn't done independent groups, or I can at least speak for myself, the 5 of us. I don't think any of us had done independent groups, and it was just so much fun. It was a very small group, but we were all very close. We got to spend a lot of different times together. And then that following year, we were still Endeavor. I think there was 11 or 12 members. And that was our first year where we were like, yeah, okay, I like maybe we could be like a little competitive. We're still putting our name out there. We're still getting recognized because obviously we're a brand new team. So competition was just not at the forefront and still honestly isn't. We're just here to have fun. We love it. Um, that past year was where people were like, "Oh, who is that? Who is that? They're new." And it was just such a validating feeling of people coming up and be like, "Wow, I love your show. Y'all are new, y'all seem like you have such a great energy." And that's really what we want to put out there, is that everything about Epic and Endeavor, where we started, we're just consistently growing. And we're going to continue to grow. We want to grow and just be, what is it that Chloe said? We're just so full of community to where we want to involve everybody. Nobody will ever be left out. And so this year, when we finally came out as Epic, we have 26 members. As Chloe said, we have practically doubled in members since the beginning. And it's, especially watching it from the beginning, it's been such a process, but it's amazing to watch something grow in just 3 years, going from the very beginning with 5 members to that very first practice when everybody was scared and didn't know each other, to now 26 members. We're heading into our last 2 competitions, and we know everybody. We know everybody there loves Guard. We know everybody there is here for Guard, and we know that we have a family. We have a family that will have our backs no matter what. I just completely went off on a tangent. I don't remember what the question was.
No, that was perfect. So to wrap things up, if you had to say something about Epic or describe Epic in one word, what would that word be?
Family.
I feel like I've got to be that person and say Epic. Um, um, but like literally, this program is so new that like, don't judge a book by its cover. We're getting a little wild, we're getting a little crazy. Um, and there's still so much room to grow, um, with this organization, with this program, that I can't say for certain, like, what we're gonna be like next year, but it's gonna be epic either way. It's gonna be cool.
All right. Well, I want to thank you guys for coming tonight and sharing about your organization. I think this is going to be really beneficial for people that are interested in coming out. Is there any, before we go, is there any kind of camps or anything that they should be looking out for? Or any kind of clinics or anything like that, or just kind of keep our eyes posted as things come up?
So every year, Epic does a spin camp. For the past 2 or 3 years that they've done it, it has been free. And it's usually in May, like the end of May. And we have a bunch of people that come in to like teach. We have people who've done DCI, like Ciara Jordan, like she teaches. She'll do like a little section of the spin camp. We've had that guy who spins from Instagram. He comes in and he came in last year to do a part of the clinic. And I think this year it's just going to be even better, but it is completely free. Anyone is like free to join. There's multiple different levels that you can come into. So you don't have to be super advanced to come to the clinic. You can have no knowledge of Guard at all, but it's a super fun experience. You get to meet like new people from other schools, and then you also get to learn like a little bit of cool work that you can use pretty much anywhere.
Awesome. Sounds epic. All right. Well, again, I want to thank you guys for sharing your time tonight and giving us some insight into your programs. I wish you guys, the best of luck in the future, and hopefully this is helpful for you guys with recruitment and for people that are just interested in knowing more about you. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.